Are you wondering how long family estrangement lasts? In this video, we'll be exploring how long family estrangement usually lasts and what affects the duration of broken bonds within families. Welcome back to my channel, Morin Holistic Therapy. I'm Marie Morin, a therapist and a wellness coach. Please subscribe so you can get more content just like this. The definition of family estrangement is a breakdown of relationships characterized by significant and prolonged distance or disconnection. It's often due to unresolved conflict or deep-rooted issues. There are a lot of reasons why, and what we talk about today are some of the reasons. It's not meant to point a finger, but rather to bring insight so that people can navigate this road. My hope is for families to gain relief, move forward, and repair relationships when possible. A brief overview: family estrangement is incredibly complex, and it affects individuals and families worldwide, ranging from temporary disagreements to long-term severed ties. Reasons for estrangement can include things like abuse, betrayal, differing values, financial conflicts, substance abuse, mental health issues, unresolved traumatic issues. So the importance of understanding the duration of family estrangement is, one thing is it provides insight and validation. So the average length of estrangement is 4.5 years. Knowing that it can occur for a long time or for different lengths helps us to realize that we're not alone. And it offers help and perspective in navigating this challenging circumstance. The other thing is that it reduces stigma. We know that a lot of people aren't going out announcing that they're estranged from their family members, or maybe they are talking about it and they're hit with a degree of stigma. And for our well-being, it's a good idea to understand that this stigma exists, knowing how you're going to deal with it, knowing who you want to talk to about it and who you prefer not to talk to is a good place to start. We want to have empathy for others in this situation, and it would be great if we can also, for those of us that are estranged, receive and promote understanding and empathy. The third thing about the importance of knowing the length of estrangement is that it facilitates healing and reconciliation. So we know that being realistic about the length and what could happen, this isn't going to get resolved immediately. In some cases, people are more amenable to getting therapy or getting help, but in some cases they're not. So making informed decisions about reconciliation, prioritizing mental well-being, and seeking support helps us to move forward and to gain a degree of realistic understanding in this time period of being estranged. So let's unpack this thing about family estrangement. What's going on? What are some of the key contributors? What are the most common? One of them is unresolved conflict. It could be on differing values. Someone believes in one thing, another believes in something else, and they just can't agree to disagree. And these unresolved issues within the family can create a lot of tension and contribute to estrangement. There's also abuse and betrayal, emotional, physical, psychological abuse, as well as betrayal can break the family bond. When there is abuse, it is unhealthy for the individual being abused to put themselves again into the family circle. And then there is substance abuse and addiction. We know that people that have substance abuse issues, it can really strain the relationship with others due to the addiction. as well as mental health issues. On both sides, untreated or unmanageable health conditions can create challenges within a family. And then there are unresolved past traumas. So for individuals who have had childhood abuse, neglect, or dysfunctional family dynamics, this can contribute. Now remember that we know in the research that perception plays a role. There are people that say, wait a minute, this person was not abused, it's just their perception. And the person that's having all of this traumatic fallout is like, oh yes, I was abused. So it's a lot about perceptions. Let's talk about the emotional and psychological impact of individuals impacted by estrangement. So we know that there's grief and loss. Is everyone feeling grief and loss? Well, studies tell us that individuals that are not tied to a functioning family feel the discomfort of not having that family bond. Estrangement triggers feelings of grief and loss, including the loss of support and belonging. Guilt and shame are often a part of the condition of estrangement. There's this thought of, oh my goodness, I can't believe my family isn't intact. And individuals can experience this breakdown of the relationship with lots of guilt and shame. There's also anxiety and depression. Now remember, these are feelings of grief, anxiety and sadness. When will my family member want to be back with me, or when do I have to see my family member? For those that cut off, they may be anxious about seeing a family member because the relationship is so strained. And then there is identity and self-esteem issues. Estrangement disrupts one's sense of identity and can impact how one feels about themselves. So I know when I hear from individuals such as parents that have been cut off by their adult children, and they were so used to being a part of their lives and being there to support them, and now nothing, and their identity is all in with their child as a mother or a father, and then there is nothing but distance. It can be very, very disconcerting. And then there's social isolation. Within the parameter of grieving, individuals can isolate because they feel so terrible. Social isolation and a lack of traditional support can often come with this estrangement condition. We have limited statistics. The current number is approximately 27% of the United States population is estranged. However, it's very likely that this estimate is quite low because of the stigma associated with estrangement. Stigma and societal perspectives tend to idealize this close-knit family, and estrangement sometimes is viewed as a failure or dysfunction. There is growing recognition and discussion. We know that it's more popular in the news. There are articles more frequently printed. We hear about celebrities and the royal couple. So it's good that this is coming out more. Hopefully more mental health professionals, researchers, and networks will have more accurate data. It can't be stressed how important it is to have more awareness and that this topic be destigmatized. This awareness can help us understand and be more empathetic and have an environment that's supportive for individuals that are experiencing family estrangement. So let's dive into the factors influencing the duration of family estrangement. So one of the factors is the nature and severity of the conflict or disagreement. So depending on how intense this disagreement was and the seriousness of the conflict can impact how long. High conflict situations and the duration of estrangement disagreements can prolong these situations, and people can get deeply entrenched in feeling like they've been wronged and offended. So it can get really messy. I'm thinking of times where people have had these breakdown of families because of a parent leaving money to one sibling and not the other, and there's no forgiveness and there's a lot of angst involved. And then there's also communication breakdowns and unresolved issues, and there's this lack of effective communication and the inability to just address the underlying problems can extend the period of distance between family members. Individual traits such as stubbornness or avoidance, and someone who is difficult in expressing their emotions, maybe they're really out there and just saying what they feel in a very charged manner, it can influence the duration of estrangement. In these cases, effective coping mechanisms such as getting support and learning how to communicate, as well as learning techniques that relax you, can shorten the duration of estrangement. And then there are cultural and societal and generational influence and expectations that can impact the duration of estrangement. I hear from people who are completely blindsided that there's an expectation of blood being thicker than water and the obligation that family has to go on no matter what occurs. And then a younger generation may be completely in a different field of how they feel about things. And if these individual differences in values and beliefs towards the family are not resolved, it can make it very difficult and influence the length of estrangement. And then there are temporary estrangements. So common reasons for short estrangements can be arguments that are heated, disagreements, or conflicts that just require people some space to cool down. Short-term estrangement can also occur due to external stressors. Maybe someone is just having a tough go and they really are having trouble communicating with anyone, and they may back out of the family temporarily in order to get themselves together. Strategies for dealing with temporary estrangements include open and honest communication to address underlying issues. So in this case, the person who is looking to mend is willing to listen and hear and not be defensive. Those are key things that increase the length of estrangement, where the argument or the unresolved conflict just won't go away because people can't agree to disagree. And then we also know that allowing the other person to have their version of the story and not one person having to be right is really key in temporary estrangements as well as long-term estrangements, because successful reconcilers were able to let the version of their story go. They didn't have to hang on to it and get validation that they were right in order to reconcile. This willingness to understand, empathize with the other person, and listen is extremely helpful, as well as getting someone to mediate. A trained professional who has their finger on the pulse of estrangement, as well as a trained therapist, can help facilitate constructive dialogue and resolution. With help from a professional, can learn how to set boundaries and establish healthy relationship dynamics moving forward. And then there's the role of forgiveness and empathy when looking to reconcile. Forgiveness and empathy play a crucial role in resolving temporary estrangements. having a heart to willingly forgive, to let go of past grievances, can lead to reconciliation and the reestablishment of relationships. We know that successful reconcilers buried the hatchet. They didn't need to put their family members' face into the concrete of how they were offended and what they did wrong. They were willing to let this go. And then there's long-term estrangement. So this is complex and deep-rooted. Let's talk about long-term estrangement. Often stems from significant unresolved issues such as ongoing abuse, betrayal, or deeply rooted conflicts. Complex dynamics within the family, this dysfunction and generational trauma can contribute to long-term estrangement. Both parties may be experiencing a sense of loss, a diminished sense of self, and long-lasting emotional scars. What are the coping strategies for long-term family estrangement? Well, one of the most important is to focus on personal growth, self-reflection, and healing from past trauma. This is really important. Getting support from a therapist or an estrangement coach to process your emotions and gain insight into the dynamics of the estrangement, as well as helping you to heal, to move forward, because you don't have any guarantee whether you want to or not. It's about the other person being willing to reconcile. And engaging in self-care activities, being around people who love and value you, doing things that you like. Some individuals are very social. They make sure that they go out and they do things that they enjoy. They go to concerts, they go to parks, they are active. They do things that says that they care about themselves. They also learn healthy boundaries to protect their emotional well-being. So what factors may prolong or shorten estrangement? So the willingness to engage in therapy or mediation, and if individuals go to mediation, having the resources to resolve conflicts can shorten the duration of estrangement. And then there's personal growth and self-reflection. There's always something we can improve as family members. We can be there, we can show up for this individual, but engaging in self-reflection can help us to know, where is our empathy muscle? Where are we in the readiness to rebuild relationships? This can have an impact on the duration. Life events or major changes that trigger reconnection include things like the birth of a child, deaths, or major milestones may motivate some people to say, hey, life is short. I really want this person in my life to enjoy this with me. And then there are external support systems and their impacts, such as friends, partners, or support groups can provide encouragement during this estrangement condition, as well as perspective, potentially shortening the duration of estrangement. So let's talk about reconciliation and healing. So the importance of self-care during estrangement can't be overstated. It really is critical that individuals who are estranged and grieving prioritize self-care. You want to promote your own emotional well-being and resilience during the estrangement period. You want to engage in activities that promote relaxation, self-reflection, and personal growth. Getting therapy, getting estrangement coaching. We all need someone in our corner. It helps us to process what's going on, as well as gain new perspectives. Steps towards reconciliation and rebuilding relationships don't always turn out the way we want. However, knowing a certain guideline by initiating open and honest communication, not being defensive, taking responsibility for what one has said and done, practicing active listening and empathy, apologizing successfully, writing that letter, being able to know how to write that letter that says, hey, I take responsibility, I'm really sorry, and knowing how to make and set clear boundaries and having reasonable expectations can help you rebuild trust and maintain healthy dynamics. Consider gaining support. This is a really tough thing to navigate. We don't really know. No one learns, hey, what happens? What do I do if my family is disintegrated? Gaining the help of a professional, an estrangement coach, or a therapist trained can really help you navigate the waters, the tumultuous waters of family dynamics and reconciliation. Family therapy or an estrangement coach provides a structured environment so that all parties can work towards resolution. A skilled professional can help identify patterns and provide guidance on how to resolve conflicts. Individual therapy can also be really helpful because if your family member does not want to reconcile, it's so good to get support. Individual estrangement coaching can teach you, what do I do? What do I not do? How do I keep the door open for reconciliation? How do I create boundaries? These are all very vital points to consider when estranged. It's important to note that reconciliation is not always possible. The other person can refuse, or there could be abuse that is unsafe to enter back into that relationship. In these cases, it's still really important for you to focus on personal healing. Learn how to set boundaries. Be around people who love and value you. Find a supportive network. Engage in activities that bring you joy. And remember that you're not alone. Leave me a comment below. See you in the next video.